Relations between China and the United States have reportedly reached a new low after Beijing announced the suspension of cooperation on multiple issues. This in response to the visit to Taiwan by the House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi earlier this week.
The Chinese government has announced a series of countermeasures following the U.S. House Speaker's visit to Taiwan. Personal sanctions have been applied not only to Nancy Pelosi, but also her immediate family. However, additional moves are much broader.
Pelosi's trip to Taiwan was a contemptible fuss because she shot herself in the foot. But it strengthened the consensus of the international community on one China and inspired 1.4 billion Chinese people to unite and accelerate the determination and will to build a modern socialist country and achieve the reunification of the motherland.
High-level military dialogue between China and the United States have been suspended, as well as cooperations on cross-border crime, including that involving narcotics. Maritime safety talks have been cancelled.
The notion that the United States would use Taiwan to subdue China is a fantasy. It cannot halt the historical trend of Taiwan's return to the motherland, nor the historical process of the China road to the nation's great rejuvenation. As far as we are aware, the United States intends to increase its military presence in the region. I hope and request that all parties maintain a high level of vigilance. Usual U.S. practice is to create a problem and then use it to achieve their own objective. But against China, this strategy is ineffective. We wish to issue a warning. The United States do not act rashly. The United States do not create a greater crisis.
Diligence has also halted all climate change dialogue between the world's largest carbon emitters.
Due diligence and political risk analyst Daniel Wong joins us now for a little bit more on this. Thanks so much indeed for your time, Mr. Wong. Is this a crisis as it's being described?
Hi, pardon? I can't hear you.
Hello, Mr. Wong.
Can you speak louder? Yes.
Hello, Mr. Wong. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you now.
All right. I was just saying, many people are calling what's happened a crisis. Is it a crisis in your view?
Well, it is a crisis, but it is a good in the long term, I would say.
All right. So tell us what the consequences are, given China has already began a series of retaliatory measures, such as cutting cooperation with the United States on issues like climate and military. What does this all mean, and what are the consequences?
Okay, so what I mean is that it's a crisis in the short term, but it's actually good for the long term. Well, basically, when we actually will have Honorable Speaker Nancy Pelosi visit Taiwan, it's a huge political ramification, but it's not only, it's just pretty much a trigger point here that is pretty much symbolize the entire decoupling of the globalization that has here for a few years already. So we see that even in the previous administration, during the Trump administration here, there's a lot of crisis going on, including Hong Kong in 2019 and then Myanmar in 2020 and 2021. And now it's focused on Taiwan here, right? So we do see that right now, actually, what is going on is that there's a total decoupling of the U.S.-China relations. And that's actually, when we actually see domestically within the U.S. per se, we have a bipartisan support for the Nancy Pelosi visit to Taiwan. It's something that has been quite remarkable here within the United States and also within China as well. Because whatever Chinese Communist Party is doing right now, yes, you can see that there has been a lot of military drill, but then there has been pretty much, there's not any sort of attack within the Taiwanese soil. Right now, there has been some drill only. Basically, even though we see within the Chinese people rhetoric here, there has been a really growing distrust within the Chinese Communist Party here. So right now, we do see that what is a huge political ramification with that be, there's a breakdown for the one China policy rhetoric by the PRC since the Pelosi visit. There has been more and more dedication actually coming from other countries. Just yesterday, the German parliament announced that they will actually visit Taiwan as well in upcoming period of time. So we do see that what is going on right now in the world is it's not only about Taiwan, China, or US. There has been a shifting, a decoupling of globalization back to what we call maybe Cold War 2.0. Right now, we see what's going on between Russia and Ukraine, and it's going to be the same pretty much scenario. I'm not saying there must be a war, but there's a decoupling between the globalization, and now it's going back to the time where it's like Cold War is a free world versus autocracy. So I would say the hugest political implication right now will be a decoupling of globalization since what we have built in the previous 2 and 3 decades.
Beijing is talking about a force bringing Taiwan back to the motherland. Might incidents like this accelerate Beijing's ambitions to bring Taipei to the fold, much in the same way that it's dealt with Hong Kong?
The thing is that right now, even within the Chinese Communist Party, within the Chinese government itself, they know that they also recognize that they do not have enough military strength over the United States. I think what is significant here is that after Pelosi visit here, there has been a bipartisan support to her visit to Taiwan, which pretty much recognized the not the jury, but de facto independence of Taiwan. They have their own military, they have their own government, they have their own system. Okay, and then there has been a growing political dynamics within the United States to pass another law that really protect Taiwan. Right now, they kind of declare that Taiwan would be a non-NATO member, which is also protected by the United States, which is also effectively an ally of the United States here. So what we are seeing is that, yes, it would trigger the Chinese government itself, but also they might have to rethink what are the political consequences here. At this point, I cannot tell you whether or not there will be a war, but there will be only 2 consequences. One, there will be a war, direct war clashes with Taiwan, Japan, or even the US, but most likely, China, they don't have enough military strength in this warfare. Or either there will be more and more mistrust within the CCP and within the Chinese people in their own country. And there will be also a decoupling within about the legitimacy of the Chinese Communist Party within the nation.
The tensions between Washington and Beijing, they may escalate in terms of the animosity, but I think that both countries appreciate and know that they can't allow things to escalate to dangerous levels because nobody would be a winner there. So are we seeing an escalation of big talk rather than the potential of big action?
I would be rather concerned with the ultra-nationalism within the Chinese government here, or with all the rationality here, if that is being put into account. The warfare or the war here would be pretty much a zero-sum game. No one would basically be the winner of this warfare. Okay, this is the bottom line. But then when we also put into account of the emotional factor within the Chinese people and also within with the ruler of the Chinese government, like Xi Jinping, if that also triggered, that would be a huge crisis here within Taiwan strain. Yes, I would say so. But then I would say the thing is we have to see that even within China, there have been a lot of different layers. A lot of businessmen, a lot of people at stake, they do not want to see a war. They have been a winner of the past globalization effort. There has been dynamic that China is the world's factory for everything. But what we see right now is not only clashes between the U.S. and Chinese government, but most importantly, a lot of business conglomerates, they're thinking to withdraw from China because of the growing geopolitical risk here, pretty much since the pandemic, because they have the zero tolerance policy towards the pandemic. So with all being said here, I would be pretty much concerned with the ruler who are so much concerned with his own rule within their own country because of the growing not trusting the Chinese government by its own people. So there's something that we would like to. That's something that we are concerning over here.
What can be done to de-escalate the current situation? I would imagine that China needs to show some kind of force, but also find a way to save face if it needs to step back a little bit. What needs to happen to allow China to step back and America to step back so that the situation de-escalates?
So in the past about 5 to 10 years, the Chinese government has been adopting what they call the wolf warrior diplomacy, because they think that they have been gaining a lot of political leverages since the economic reform, since the Belt and Road Initiative, but then they don't have they're not even powerful enough to actually compare to the Western governments, the Western democracy in terms of the military strength. So if they have to de-escalate the situation, that would be something that has to be undertaken by the Chinese side, not by the U.S. side, because we know that what is surrounding over Taiwan is pretty much a de facto independent country. They have been manufacturing a lot of semiconductors in Taiwan. So basically, they have the economic value over this island. But then the U.S. actually respect the Western democracies. Actually respect there has been free trade with Taiwan. There have been a lot of they have their own delegation in different international system as well. So that is something that I do believe that if we have to de-escalate the situation, that should be undertaken by the Chinese side. That means that they might have to rethink the rhetoric over the wolf warrior diplomacy with other countries. We actually do see that right now there's been a lot of analysis that a lot of diplomats in China, they're trying to shift and be more softened in terms of their approach with the other governments as well. So that's something that would be a pathway for the de-escalation.
All right, Daniel Wong, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for giving us some insights on that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's risk analyst Daniel Wong speaking to us about Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan and the drama that has fallen out as a result of that moment. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa has emphasized the need to tackle gender-based violence with the urgency employed in fighting some health emergencies. Speaking at a gala dinner hosted